This is the BassForecast bait breakdown for the umbrella rig. In this short video, we're going to cover these 5 topics: key features, top tips, matching forage, rod, reel, and line, and hook set. Let's start with the key features. For the most part, umbrella rigs consist of a head that has 5 wires shooting out of it, 4 to the sides and 1 down the center. These arms can be totally naked or have blades that add flash. And because there are 5 wires, you've got to have 5 jig heads and 5 swim baits. One thing you've got to understand about the umbrella rig though is that states have different laws that pertain to how many hooks you are legally allowed to have on your umbrella rig. So make sure you study your laws before you go throwing an A-rig that's illegal in your state. Something else to keep in mind about the umbrella rig is that it is a heavy and expensive combo. So for the most part, I'm throwing 1/8 ounce or 1/16 ounce heads on my swim baits, never any heavier. And because the Alabama rig is so easily snagged, I do not throw it from the bank. This is a boat, a kayak, a John boat lure only for me, and I would recommend the same for you. It is too dangerous and too expensive to be throwing from the bank. Now for the retrieve on the umbrella rig, it is super simple. You want to make the longest cast you can over open water where bait fish and bass are. Count the lure down a certain amount of seconds to 10 feet, 20 feet beneath the surface, and then start your slow retrieve, allowing each of those swim baits to paddle their way back to you, attracting bass. And I'm telling you, the slower you can go, the better. Now, one thing you can do during your retrieve is, as you're reeling, pump your reel handle like this. And what that does is causes the umbrella rig to kind of collapse and then open back up again, and collapse, open back up again. And it looks like a school of bait fish that is definitely a little bit nervous because something might be about to eat it. Now, where should you be fishing your umbrella rig? Well, of course, you want to be throwing it around where the bass are. And if your recommendation for today in the app is to throw the umbrella rig, it is most likely fall, winter, early spring. The water is cold. It might be a cold front situation. And that means your bass are probably suspended in the water column. So look for offshore points. Look for big open flats that have stumps or grass underneath. And that's where you're going to find fish chasing bait fish like this, suspended in the water column. That's where an umbrella rig shines. And one thing that is true about bait fish is that they love to school up. If they are swimming individually, they are a sitting target for a hungry, aggressive bass. And so they find strength in numbers, just like in saltwater with the big schools of mullet that the dolphins and the swordfish are blasting through. The same thing is true about bait fish in your bodies of water for bass. But keep in mind, the bigger you go with your swim baits, the heavier it'll be and the quicker it'll sink, which means more likely to get snagged. For the rod, reel, and line on the Alabama rig, I mentioned it's a heavier lure, so it necessitates a heavier style combo. We recommend a baitcaster rod of at least 7 foot 6 inches in length, medium heavy or heavy power, and fast action, because you want to get a long cast and have enough beef in that hook set to get a hook into the fish. Now when it comes to the line, I'm throwing 20-pound fluorocarbon or above. I've thrown 25-pound monofilament. I've thrown 60-pound braid, 50-pound braid to a fluorocarbon leader. I've thrown straight braid. Whatever the heaviest line you got is, that's what you're going to want to throw an umbrella rig on, not 10-pound monofilament. That's not the right line. You need a beefier line. And for the gear ratio on your reel, you want to go as slow as possible. I like anything in the low 5s to low 6s. When you are retrieving the umbrella rig back to you and a fish eats it, most of the time it's kind of going to hook itself. So there's no need for like an aggressive hook set unless the bite happens on the end of a very, very long cast. In that case, that's where the long rod comes in handy, because you can then sweep the rod tip to get a good hook set into a fish that has decided to bite far away from the boat. But just to be safe, I generally use more heavy style jig heads on my umbrella rigs. That way, if I get excited and set the hook too hard, I'm not bending out those hooks. We hope this video gives you more confidence in using the umbrella rig so you can adapt to the conditions and catch more bass. And I'll see you out on the water.